and sacrifice, living, letting go. Shed a treasure I know that is God within my soul. For an humble heart, offering pain and strife, Lord, to you I gave all, my everything, my love and sacrifice. In the face of the aged, I see your wisdom. In the face of the sick, I see your wounds. In the face of the poor, I see your loving hope. In all of this, Lord, I gave my all, love and sacrifice, live and letting go. Shed a treasure I know that is God within my soul. Pure and humble heart, offering pain and strife, Lord, to you I gave all, my everything, my love and sacrifice. Of trials, I see your saving cross. In the face of danger, I see your hand. In the face of prayer, I see your heart. In the face of love, I see but you. Love and sacrifice, live and letting go. Shed a treasure I know that is God within my soul. Poor and humble heart, offering pain and strife, Lord, to you I gave all, my everything, my love and sacrifice. Love and sacrifice, live and letting go. Shed a treasure I know that is God within my soul. Poor and humble heart, offering pain and strife, Lord, to you I give all, my everything, my love and sacrifice. Lord, to you I gave all, my everything, my love and sacrifice.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Catholics at Home. And so this week, we are on episode 103. So we have crossed the century. It's a little bit like cricket. The century is a great moment, and we have crossed that century mark. And to be able to bring to you different conversations in this Saturday morning live conversations that we have that come right to your home. And we are glad that you're able to join us today, as you have been in so many weeks that you have joined us in these little conversations of interest, we hope, to bring the church and interesting topics right straight into your living room. As you know, that we started this over 2 years ago, and we are going on. And every week we try to bring to you some interesting topics about faith, about life. We also try to highlight some personalities, people that we know, or people that we have heard about, or people that we would like to also spotlight in the life of the church. And that is what we hope to be able to do in these conversations. But first and foremost, welcome to the many of you, to our regulars who have been signing in already at the start of this program, this podcast. Thank you for faithfully joining in every Saturday morning. It's so heartwarming these days, especially when I go to celebrate Mass in some of the other parishes and people walk up to me. Even today, I was at earlier this morning talking to someone, and they said they follow us regularly on a Saturday morning. And so it's such a joy to be able to hear these things, that what we are doing is we are able to reach out to a lot more people. And in some ways, this has been a blessing through the lockdown. Now, I don't want to sound very morbid whether the lockdown was a blessing, but the lockdown has somewhat been the catalyst for us to start this, to be able to talk to you right in the comforts of your own living room. So thank you very much for joining us once again. We are here every Saturday morning at 10:30. And if you haven't already, don't forget to press subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, or if you are on Facebook, don't forget to follow or like us so that you get reminded of our upcoming programs. So every week we try to bring you different things. And if you click the subscribe button, which is that little bell on YouTube, or that like or follow us on Facebook, you will be updated as soon as our program is prepared and posted. You will get a notification that you will know what is coming up on Saturday morning. So don't forget, keep Saturday morning 10:30 a.m. free for us. And if we are not, we will let you know. Of course, sometimes we are tied up with other things now that life is coming back to some sense of normalcy in many ways. But nevertheless, we would like to keep this little time slot that we have kind of owned for ourselves here at Catholics at Home, Saturday morning, 10:30, live on different topics, different issues, faith in general, and also personalities. And so this morning, we are privileged to bring to you to another personality that many of you may have heard of, some of you have not heard of, but nevertheless, it's always a joy to bring a different person into our conversation. Earlier, you heard the song, Love and Sacrifice. Now, this song, many of us may not have heard, and we are hearing it for the first time. It was written by a priest from the Archdiocese of Manila, whom we are spotlighting this morning. He is a songwriter, a composer, one who has won many awards. I'm not too sure. We'll ask him whether he has won any Grammy Awards, whether he has been featured in the Grammy Awards or even in the Oscars. We will ask him, but we know that he has won many awards, and it's a great pleasure to welcome him. I'm meeting him for the first time. I've heard about him through my other works, but it's a pleasure to meet him for the very first time and have this conversation with him on this Saturday morning. Let's welcome Father Carlo Magno Marcelo. Good morning, Father.
Good morning, Father, and to all your viewers. I'm so happy to
say,
be here.
Welcome, Mabuhay. That's the only word I know.
Mabuhay to everyone.
Of course, we have a common word, salamat. Salamat is a common word that we use between both our cultures.
Yes, salamat.
Yeah, welcome.
I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome to our Catholics at Home, and it's a great pleasure to meet you on this platform. We have worked indirectly, which we'll talk about it a little bit in a while. but it's a pleasure to meet you. We have a mutual friend, Father Rico. As you
Yes.
said, yeah, your classmate. He
Yes.
kind of connected us.
Yes.
So we know that you are a songwriter. All right. We'll hold the question about the Grammys and the Oscars afterwards.
Oh,
But Father, I know there are people who know you, there are people who do not know you. But for the benefit of our viewers who are hearing your name for the very first time, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from, and which seminary you went to, and how many years you've been a priest, and whatever other information that you think may be beneficial for us this morning.
yes. So I'm Father Carlo Magno Marcelo. I'm from the Archdiocese of Manila, and I've been a priest for 28 years already. Father Rico is my classmate, and I've never been assigned in the parish, but I've always been assigned in offices, no? And I was once I was assigned in the minor seminary, and then in the office of the late Jaime Cardinal Sin, and then I was transferred to the seminary. For 19 years, I worked in the seminary in various roles, and then after 19 years, I was given the task to assist as minister in the catechetical ministry of the Archdiocese of Manila, and the office is still inside the major seminary. So I've lived almost half of my life inside San Carlos Seminary. I'm happy with this will of the Lord, as long as I'm led to be of greater service to His kingdom, and that makes me happy.
Now, your name is very interesting, Carlo Magno, Carlo the Great. I would think that's, I'm sure you do a lot of great things in the seminary and also in the catechetical and liturgical ministries, or wherever you are sent. But before we get into this conversation, something kind of caught my eye. That little statue behind you, Father. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that statue? I know it's not part of this morning's conversation, but I'm sure that has caught the eye of many people. It's a very unique representation of Mother Mary.
Yes.
What statue is that?
This is the Our Lady of the Rose, no? Because come May 1 until the end of May, every day we have the Mayflower Festival, no? And so children are asked to go to the churches, but we in the catechetical ministry, because of certain limitations, no, we created an online Mayflower Festival, or we call it the Flores de Mayo, the Flowers of May. So we invite children, adults, no, to pray the rosary, and then there's a short catechesis, and after which we offer flowers to Our Lady of the Rose. This is Our Lady of the Rose. She comes out every day in this title. And then at the end of May, there is the coronation of a crown of flowers is given to her. Oh. And then usually in the Philippines, we have, we call the Santa Cruzan. We have the beautiful lasses come out, and then they have this title that pertains to the virtue of Our Lady.
Is this something that every family would have one in the home, a statue like this, or is it something in the church only?
Oh, it is in the church, because people would go to the church or to their chapel to offer flowers to this particular lady.
That's interesting.
It's a community event.
Interesting. I mean, though we are kind of rooted in one faith, but the cultural expressions are quite diverse and quite interesting to find out, what happens in the Philippines in the month of May.
And it makes us very busy the whole month of May. Because there is always catechesis involved. There's always catechesis involved.
Father Carlo, you mentioned very early in your career, you were an assistant secretary to the great Cardinal Sin. I know, as I was in the seminary, we have heard this name, and of course we know he was very influential, not just in Manila, but throughout the country, even politically. Now, we won't talk about the politics of the Philippines, which is very much today in the news for various reasons. But what I mean, before we talk a little bit about your songwriting skills, I was curious to find out, we hear of this name because, Cardinal Sin. Of course, what is this Cardinal Sin all about? I mean, what was he like? What impressions did he leave on you? I think you were a very young priest when you were assigned as a secretary to him.
Yes. Usually, the assistant secretary is the one who is constantly changed. You only last for 2 years, no? It's like a training ground, no? And for me, it was really a big grace to be chosen to be his assistant secretary. The role of the assistant secretary, as I was informed by the main secretary, who was Monsignor Socrates Villegas, now Archbishop
Archbishop.
Socrates Villegas of the Dagupan, I have to be a companion to His Eminence, to the late Cardinal. So I have to go wherever he would be going, no? And that gave me really a big grace to be with him and to see the person rather than the big name that you get to hear and you see in the newspapers or TV. He is so much of a father, really so much of a father. And then I realized that you can always use joy, humor, and wit to convert people, especially your enemies. And this is what that was his weapon: joy, humor, and wit. No, and then of course, you can always see the priority of prayer in his life. He has so many appointments. So since I'm his companion, I always was with him in the car, and every time I will always be the last one to enter the car because he's always so early. He hates to be late. No, so I'm always the one who is late. And when you enter the car, it's the mysteries of the Rosary, and then afterwards the Stations of the Cross, then all his favorite prayers. If you have not reached the destination, then that's the time you will engage in conversations. And the conversations are very homely or homey. No? And sometimes we play a game. He would create a game because he knew that I was an organist. He would create this name, that instrument. No? Because we would be listening to orchestral music, and then he would play that game with me. No? So he's so fatherly and so nice to be with.
As you were saying that as he gets into the car, he starts praying. The thought that ran through my mind is: does he not trust his driver to get him safely to his destination? No, but this is the side we don't hear about, because we see a very, very strong character. I mean, at least in my seminary years, we see a very strong character and a very very powerful, very influential. Interesting that you give another side of his joy and humor and the human side of the cardinal. That's interesting.
I still hear in my ears, no? Anybody would come and he would be the one to greet them at the door, no? He would always have a very loud voice saying, "Welcome to the house of sin." He said that to Imelda Marcos. He said that to all the politicians who would enter the house. "Welcome to the house of sin."
I'm sure he left lasting impressions on you as a young priest, and which just kind of shaped you and marked you in your ministry even today in many ways. But coming to talk a little bit about being a songwriter for the Lord, I think this is the first time we are featuring someone like you who is a composer with a kind of an illustrious, I wouldn't want to use a career, but a ministry. Let's call it a ministry.
Yes.
I think it's
mission,
not.
I would call it mission.
Or a mission. But before we get into that, Father Carlo, I mean, did kind of music play an important part in your growing up years? I mean, are you trained musically, or are your parents musicians, or your siblings musicians, or is something that you were attracted to as a young growing person?
I had different hobbies, not music really, because we did not have any musical instrument except for a guitar, perhaps, And then my father was the only one who would be playing guitar music and then military band music because he was a soldier. He's still alive now, retired. So I always hear band music. And then when the our parish church needed young organists to serve at Mass. No? So they offered 10 free lessons to young people who would like to become church organists. And me and my best friend, and I think 8 other young boys, joined the group. And the two of us were the survivors of that short course. And that began my service to the church as a church organist or church musician. I was not given the grace to finish, to get a bachelor in music, but then I had short courses along the way that helped me or honed my skill to write songs. But the one who really pushed me to this ministry was actually the late Jaime Cardinal Sin. Because I was simply an accompanist, not a songwriter. But later on, perhaps, if, with the first song that became very famous, it was due to the late Jaime Cardinal Sin, who trusted me in this with that project.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, as a young person, and the church had this kind of program to invite budding musicians, or at least potential musicians who can serve in the church. But in your growing up years, what kind of music did you listen to? I think if you're a priest now for 27 years, you're probably about the same age, I would think. At least, we were not the generation of having an iPod in our ears, or
Yes,
Spotify, but maybe the radio, tuning in the radio. And what kind of music did you listen growing up? What genre of music did you like?
I was forced as a young kid to listen to military band music since we only had one record, one long playing album. And then I was again forced to listen to Carpenter's music because we only had one album of Carpenter's music. And so I grew up. But when I was in high school, when rock was the most popular thing, I and my buddies were listening to John Williams' soundtrack of Star Wars and all the sci-fi music. We knew the title of the music of the movies, and that's a bit weird, no? But we were not yet labeled as geeks, but we were listening to Henry Mancini, John Williams, while the whole world, the whole youth of my generation, they were listening to rock. No, we were listening to John Williams. Then later on, I appreciated Broadway music. I almost memorized the soundtrack of The Sound of Music without even watching the movie because we didn't have a video player then. But then I was able to memorize and just imagine created the scenes of Do Re Mi, no, and all those. Then I started to love Broadway music that made me. There is this inclination to melodious patterns, easy to sing and then melodious, and then narrative in a way. So that created my sense of in my writing of songs. And then the instrumental music helped me with the musical arrangement, how the -1 should sound because of that movements created by John Williams, the emotions that would come to this instrumental music as background to the various scenes of those movies. So that helped me a lot later in my life as a songwriter.
Well,
It's
interesting.
weird, right?
Yeah, no, it's quite inspirational because last week we celebrated Good Shepherd Sunday and it was World Day of Prayer for Vocations.
Yeah.
So even if our young people out there are listening to all kinds of music, God can always lead you in a particular path towards liturgical music. So listening to you to say there's hope to those people who are listening to all this heavy metal rock music, you can be led. You can be led towards the path of God, to love His liturgical music.
Yeah, and I was not writing songs way back then. I was just simply on the side because there are other classmates of mine who are so good with the piano and in writing songs, and I was very timid and quite shy. And then later on, I realized that it was a preparation for me to be more sensitive because the style of my songwriting is more of service. What do people need to sing? Not what I want them to sing or what I am inspired to write. So I really consider songwriting as a mission because during my free time, I won't be playing music. I would be tending my goldfish, my plants or whatever, or paint or whatever,
All
but not music really.
You're talking about when you listen to band music, you listen to Carpenters, John Williams, and all the others. Uh, would you say any one of them had an influence on the kind of music that you write now in some ways?
Oh, the actually when I was a young seminarian, I was introduced to the Focolare movement, and I fell in love with the two bands of the Focolare movement. And they often would sing in Italian, rarely in English, the Gen Rosso and the Gen Verde. The Gen Rosso are the men's rock band, Gen Verde would be the women. No? But they introduced me to a very uh, different kind of music that can be sung in the church and that is also very Italian in a way, but also has characteristic of world music because the members of the band would be coming from different countries. And that shaped me also with the kind of music that I would be writing. It is open to world music. I would say world music.
Right.
It can be ethnic, it can be pop, it can be rock, it can be western, it can be classical. And of course, my mentor in the seminary, Father John Van de Steen, opened me to the beauty of the classics, the Gregorian chant, and the classics, both European and Asian.
Now, your first song, okay, let's say the genesis of your mission in music was in the Jubilee year. From what the little that I read, I've been trying to do a bit of research about the work that you have done in the year 2000, and that turned out to be a hit. It was considered as, I think, the best inspirational song, if I'm not mistaken, for that year. In the Philippines, it won some awards. I can't remember what the name of the award was. It the Awit Award or something?
No, it's Awit.
Awit.
Awit is song. It's like our local Grammy.
Yeah, and that song has now been translated into Korean, Japanese, Hindi also, and a few other. Now, how did that come about? How did it all start?
Here comes Cardinal Sin. Now, because the Saint John Paul II issued the Tercio Millennio Adveniente, no, and it was calling for the 3-year preparation for the Jubilee year. So the preparation would begin 1997. So it came out around 1996, and I was assistant secretary to the late Cardinal, and the Cardinal instructed the secretary to tell me, since I'm an organist, no, and since there was no money for a competition, and they needed a song urgently, no, so he commissioned me to write the song. So can you write this song? So I read the document, and then it was a bit urgent. So when I wrote the first song, I immediately submitted it to Monsignor Socrates Villegas, now Archbishop, because the meeting was, it was almost the fall. He gave me 2 weeks perhaps, but then I wrote the song the night before. No, I wrote the first song for 3 days, no, trying to put the Tercio Millennio Adveniente's spirit in the song. And then the night before I submitted the song, suddenly another inspiration came just before I went to sleep. There was this persistent melody, and then I sat down on my desk, then wrote for 45 minutes. It was like an outpouring of melody and words. And then the next morning, I submitted to Monsignor Sock the new tape for the song, and that was the Jubilee song. And it was approved, and then we used it. Then 1997 was the World Youth Day in Paris. And the Filipino youth, since we started singing it 1996 with actions, the Filipino youth, when they went to Paris, they brought the song, singing it on the streets, And then it attracted young people, so they asked, teach us the song. So I think it was first translated in French because it happened in World Youth Day Paris. Then it spread, because of World Youth Day. And the young people got attracted to the song. And then I received a request if they can be translated to different languages. And then, it's 4 years. It was sung for 4 years. So it got stuck in the mind of young people. And on the Great Jubilee year 2000, we were invited to sing it in the culminating Mass at Tor Vergata, World Youth Day, Rome. So we had to sing it after the Pope's message, and before the finale of that. It was near midnight in Tor Vergata. So we were asked to sing it in Rome for the World Youth Day. So that's the genesis of the song.
How does the inspiration come for you when you sit down either on the piano or the organ to write? I mean, is that something that happens naturally, or is it like something that while you're sleeping in the middle of the night, you get a little kind of a brainwave and you wake up? Sometimes it happens and you start writing. I also read that you wrote a song for Cardinal Sin the night before he died.
The night he died, his wake was in the Manila Cathedral, and I felt that I have to give honor to this man, and suddenly I had to write a song, and it was sung the night before he was buried.
So what inspires you, or what inspiration do you look for when you sit down to write a song?
First, I only write songs when I am asked to write a song. When I'm always commissioned, it's not my hobby to write songs. So when I'm commissioned, I always ask the one commissioning me or the group, what you give me the materials and what do you want the people to feel, what the people to sing, then what are the words that need to appear. And then after the meeting with them, I would read the materials, pray over it, and then I have to wait. That's the difficult part, to wait. And after doing my assignment, after praying, I have to wait. And the worst thing is when the deadline is very near and there is no song yet. So I have to wait, and then it would appear anywhere. And that's why I'm so happy now that phones now have recording capabilities. Way back then, I still have the old recording machine, cassette tape. So every time there's a melody, I would sing it. Sometimes there would be words. Most of the time, there will be no words. Then when I feel that the song is almost complete, then I would sit down and finish the song and edit the song. The worst songs that I've written is when I was very prepared. I think those songs were not really inspired. So I've learned my lesson. So I would really wait. And the good Lord is really very good. At least before the deadline, the song would come. And it comes so fast. It comes so fast. So I have to record it and then do an editing. And then I submit it to the one who commissioned me and ask for their opinions, and they would say, can you change this? Can you do this? Sometimes it pains me because it's an effort that you put, then suddenly I've chosen the wrong word. But then I need to humble myself because it is the song of the people. And so I have to do some revisions and submit it again. So that's how the dynamics of my songwriting would go. I trust in the inspiration, then I submit it for comments and then for further editing.
So you were saying that you compose when you are commissioned. You're not like one of those people while you are showering and suddenly you get a tune in your head and you quickly go and write it down or something like that.
No, unless I'm waiting for the song.
All right.
To be inspired, no, I'm too lazy to do that. Songwriter.
But you have written what, something like 70 songs, over 70 songs, and
because I'm free. In short, I'm cheap. Because the principle is freely you receive, freely you give. No, so people don't pay me as long as it is the will of God. No, so I need a letter from the superior, from the parish priest, and then they would approach me. That's why there were years when I was so prolific because there were so many requests. Usually, the average number of songs that I would write in a year would be one or two.
All right.
Oh, one or two. But there would be years wherein a group would ask me, like a mass, a full mass. And so I would give into their request. No? So that's why there were years that I wrote an album or two. Yes.
And when you write these songs, you write the melody and the lyrics at the same time.
Yes, no,
Okay.
it's a bit difficult for me to collaborate
Okay.
because of the sense of time. My time is a bit flexible. If I'm not ready, I'm not ready. If there is no melody, there's no melody. If the other one, if I will be collaborating and the other one has a melody, I would lose my melody.
All right.
So it's a big challenge for me to collaborate, but I've been collaborating with others in the past. No? Uh, Nowadays, it's more of me then letting others edit or check the one that I've written.
Now, Father Carlo, when you talk about music is very subjective.
Yeah,
It's everybody's got a different opinion, a view about music, especially church music.
yes,
Everybody has got it can either unite you or it can divide you in
yes,
many ways, especially in a parish.
yes.
And you have written a lot of liturgical music, music that we use in celebration of our liturgy. And I don't want to get into a controversial discussion about what it should be or what it shouldn't be, because in different parts of the world, as I've seen, I mean, in Philippines, even within the Philippines, you go to different regions.
Wow.
The music is so different.
Yes.
Some are more animated, some are not. Some are very cultural. Some they bring in their own life experiences. But in your work, when you write liturgical music, as a composer, what principles do you apply, especially like to encourage? I think one of the things that I've always liked in my own journey in the priesthood is to look for music that can incorporate the life of where it comes from, the life of the people, the culture of the people, whether it's in instrument or whether it is also in the kind of a melody. But for yourself, when you talk about liturgical music, what principles do you apply or do you look for when you are composing?
Uh, for me, first, the biggest, I would say, a challenge is we have this patrimony of like the Gregorian chant, no? And patrimony means it's the treasure of everybody. No? Therefore, we have to give value to it. No? So, but the thing is, how would you help the young people or help people today appreciate such a gift, such a treasure? So I always challenge myself on how to allow the Gregorian chant, the Latin songs, to enter into today's music. So usually I create music using chant, a certain part in chant, then a certain part in the vernacular. Then secondly, the color of unction or being sacred or being in a way separated, a music that is not worldly, and yet there is the sense of the sacred, the sense of the other. That is a very important trait in liturgical music. And of course, the text. I've been in charge of the choir of the Archdiocese of Manila for 10 years. And I know the problems, no? I know the quarrels and everything. And then the question of what school? Do you belong to the Jesuit school? Do you belong to the
Exactly.
classical school? No. But then I saw the icons of liturgical music here in the Philippines, like Father Montiveros. He can change the tune of his composition because the people would be singing more this different tune of his composition. And so he would say, if the people is singing this, then we sing this. No, he was ready to change. because it's the people praying in song. You know? And so I've learned a lot more to help the people pray in song. You know, but no, since I'm a priest and I'm seminary formator, I've been lecturing on the proper elements of liturgical music. I tend to get a balance of popular tune and then of the traditional tune, and then what is really required in the liturgy, like the use of the proper text. It's such a difficult thing to balance all this.
Yeah, like you said, this is, just like music, art, and many others, all are very subjective. It depends on what
Yes.
people like and what people are used to. One may like, it this way, one may like it in another way. And sometimes, rather than finding an opportunity where we can collaborate, sometimes it becomes a point of a contentious point that it divides people, and in that sense, music in itself loses its objectivity and focus.
Yes.
Like you said, the sense of the sacred. Any song that we sing or any
And active participation is a very important element. No, active participation. No? And so sometimes, I create medleys because I need to use the proper text, but I want the people to sing. And so I would use the refrain of a popular liturgical song, and then I go to a traditional song. And so I create medleys because I want people to sing during the celebration. So they will sing parts, and then choir can sing solo. And since I'm a songwriter, I seem to have that license to do some chop of certain songs and then create this, and nobody would question me. So that's the advantage that I have.
Yeah. I think that's the one, like you said, one of the things that in Asia and even Africa I've seen, and in some parts of Latin America, that people participate, people respond, and people just sing their hearts. I mean, I know even here in Malaysia, sometimes there are people who know they're tone deaf, but they could care less. I mean,
Yes.
they would just let it go, let it flow from them. It's
Yes.
really their connection with God. Of course, the choir master will not be very happy if somebody nearby is singing on a different key or something, but it kind of tells that it's something that helps us to connect with the divine, isn't it?
Yes.
In that sense, and
Yes.
it's a grace that you receive to be able. I think it's Augustine who says when you sing, you pray twice over.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the connection. I think music naturally is something that kind of takes over. I mean, you listen to a nice tune, suddenly you see your feet, they're tapping, or your fingers, you're moving. It somehow tugs a kind of a different chord in each one of us,
Yes.
and it helps us to grow. But you are in liturgical music, you are in catechetics. Now, this is an interesting thing I wanted to ask you. Uh, how do we use music to reach out to young people who are listening to a variety? Now, I think they are spoiled for choices. I mean, like you said, you had one record. Probably in my house there were just a few records, and those cassettes that you plug in, that we heard over and over again.
Yes.
But
Yes.
today with Spotify and all the
Oh my
Apple
God, there are
Music,
thousands.
thousands of songs at their fingertips. How do you use this to evangelize to our young people?
Yes. Uh, in scriptures, one of the disciples asked the Lord, teach us how to pray. No? And I read once in a book that in a book on liturgy that we are all stutterers. No? We stutter, which means metaphorically it means that we want to say something but we cannot express it, and especially the young people, they feel something but they cannot express it. And I think that's where music would come in, because we're all stutterers in front of the Lord. And so therefore, we have to help the young have this expression to be able to use music as a vehicle for them to express, though it may not capture their total feelings, express what they are feeling inside through music. And I've seen this especially when in a funeral, when we ask the grandpa who lost his wife, to say something before the mass. I cannot forget this, and he said nothing. She doesn't want to say anything, and then of course the grandchild spoke instead. But in the middle of the speech of the grandchild, suddenly the grandpa sang a song. No, it was their a love song. Then everybody, we were all quiet, and then we waited for the grandpa to finish his song. And then afterwards, we were almost all crying because he cannot express the great loss, so he just used their love song. And I think that's the role of music in the young, in evangelization in the long run. And for example, in the Archdiocese of Manila, when they created the Vision Mission, because churches would like to have the vision of the Archdiocese of Manila. And how would you help the people know or memorize the song? So I suggested we turn it the vision. We turn it into a song. So it became the entrance song of all masses. So every time we ask the people, do you know the vision of the Archdiocese of Manila? They would say, we don't know the vision. But then we would say, do you know Bayang Tinawag? No, Bayang Tinawag is the title of the song. Yes, we know Bayang Tinawag. That's the vision of the Archdiocese of Manila. And so they can sing from their heart the vision. So it's a tool actually for us to deepen the faith. And we have to use it also very much, especially these days.
I remember you were talking earlier about the year 2000, the Jubilee year, and it was World Youth Day in Rome also at that time.
Yes.
And I was in Rome. And it was interesting, just the first part of the summer, and then I kind of ran away from the crowd, and I left. On the streets, you just saw young people coming together of different nationalities, and they were singing on the street. They may not have known the words, but that somehow brought them together, united them. So I think music has an interesting way of uniting people, especially the young people. It's a universal language, isn't it? I would say, in many ways, to be able. And so when you have written all these songs and won so many awards, and we're going to ask you, did you win any Grammy or Oscar awards for that? Have you reached there, or you not yet? On your way.
There is one song, Only Selfless Love. They created a very beautiful MTV. It was given a citation in New York festivals.
All right.
So I got a chance to go to Broadway.
Okay.
To get we didn't win, but we got a citation in the New York festivals because of the MTV. That's the farthest that but I've not been successful in Catholic awards. I've not been successful.
Oh, right. Okay.
In secular giving bodies that I've been very, very successful, but not in my home court. And it's okay.
So it looks like the words of scripture come alive. I mean, a prophet is not welcome in his own town.
As long as they don't stone me.
All right. Or try to push you off the cliff. Of the many songs that you have written, it's a very difficult question, I know, especially when you've done so many. Is there one that has got a very special significance for you, that speaks out to not to Father Carlo, but to Carlo Magno, the person, that really it's something so special to you till today? You hold on very tight.
Yes. Up front, I would always say the best song I've written is Awit sa Ina ng Santo Rosario, Song to Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary. And I told my friends and family, when I will be buried, it must be the song that will be played in the hearse. No? But your question is about what is that song that really speaks to me. One summer, I was invited by a friend priest to take a course in psychology in the Jesuit school at Ateneo, just one course, and it's titled Inner Gardening. Inner gardening. So you will be tending the garden of your soul. And then at the end, we were required to do a paper or do something, a project. And so, of course, for me, I wrote a song, no? And the song is entitled "Just Tell Me," and the song is God singing to me. So it's like I had a dream when I was preparing for that final project, and God was telling me that He is like a lover, and He tells me that you have to tell me that you love me, because if you don't tell me that you love me, sometimes your silence, because we always say silence means a yes, but here's God saying sometimes your silence means a no. So just tell me that you love me. So the song is like God begging me to tell Him that I love Him. So the song sounds so much of a love song, and then but there is no word of God or anything. So it sounds like a love song. It's in YouTube, and then when there was a competition in a popular TV channel, I submitted it, and it reached the semi-finals. No, of that, because it is a love song, really. So that is very close to my heart. It is the song of God to me, not always reminding me that I have to, even though I'm a priest, sometimes I forget to drop by the chapel and say, Lord, I renew my love for you. Sometimes I'm always working I'm doing works for God. Sometimes I forget to talk to the God who gives me this, to whom I offer all my works. So that song is very close to my heart. Just tell me. You can listen to it in YouTube.
Just tell me. All right. We will highlight a little bit of that song.
And the first notes is a shout. You'll be shocked. The very beginning is a shout. The God who is lover seems to be complaining, so He would be saying, "Just tell me." So, as if He ran out of patience. Yeah, so.
You were saying earlier that you didn't go to a music school. I mean,
Yeah.
you went to church. I mean, it's my own same experience. I mean, I first started playing the guitar in church. I learned with friends, and then with the organ more in the seminary, we had the opportunity to learn a bit more. But today, I don't know in the Philippines, but in Malaysia, I mean, learning a musical instrument, a lot of young people do that today. They have the opportunity. The parents give them, I'm sure probably in the Philippines too. But we also begin to see that not many of them actually would want to come forward and to play for the church, the church choir. And we experience that, in large churches. We're very few people. There are many musicians, but very few who step forward to say, I mean, let me offer my talent to God. People who are, what would you like to advise people who are thinking about it, who are shy to play in church, as a liturgical musician? What would you say to them? Some of them are afraid to make mistakes. Some of them are afraid that people will ridicule them.
Yes, I think we need to address first the music directors before the musicians, because sometimes the restrictions there, we are so afraid to disobey the rubrics, and sometimes that becomes a stumbling block. The more that the young people they become so afraid to not follow instructions, So the advice that I usually give to budding composers is that just continue to write. Don't ever focus on being published, because sometimes that overtakes the desire to serve or to dive into the ministry. Sometimes you have this desire to be published, then your songs to be known, no? But I said, forget about it. You just write and write. If the people need this, if you want to express yourself, you just write. And then be open. The thing is, when you write, you share it. If it is for the church, you must be ready to let go or lose yourself. To die to yourself. If they would say this would not help, this is so fast. The words are not good. No, just be open to it. And I think if given the opportunity, priest would be very, very encouraging. If the parish priest or the choir director would be very encouraging rather than strict. I think many young people would really like to give their contribution because you get to see them in other churches other than the Catholic Church. You get to see how rock music in different churches are used or sound seemingly like rock or fast-paced music, and get to see a lot of people flocking to their worship services. But then we can also offer a different kind of ambience with our traditional music and yet at the same time contemporary music. There is a place for all types of music here because what we are judging is actually the value that it is good music. That it is good music. We're not judging the style actually. So,
a lot of Asian musicians, composers, they try to, introduce or integrate, local instruments. I'm sure you are also exposed to that.
Yes.
Because the faith that we profess comes from a particular era, and organ music plays an important role in that. But there are young people who experiment with different kinds of. Is that something that you try to do in your lessons with the seminarians in your own music? Do you try to experiment with some cultural elements in your music that kind of speaks to the heart of the people whom you're writing for?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Manila, and Manila is more of the synthesizer type. We don't have indigenous instruments. If we will be having a conference with people coming from the north and the south, that's the only time we use these indigenous instruments. And most of the time, we don't have knowledge of it. So I think if you will ask composers from the other regions, they would be using their indigenous instruments. But enculturation is very critical today, and to express one's faith with one's culture is very, very important and vital for our faith to be deepened. And I think it is but right, that we use whatever we have to express our prayer. In Manila, we are more exposed to the contemporary music, also Jesuit music and other things. But then more of the actions, the gestures. Our young people seem to, or the children will really love the symbolic gestures in the songs at the mass. I'm currently involved in an online children's mass, and we always have the gestures incorporated in the singing for the children's mass.
Now, Father Carlo, we are coming to an hour of this conversation that's passed so quickly without us realizing. I'm just going to kind of dive into, to your latest project now, which somewhat, indirectly I'm involved also for the Federation of Asian Bishops Conferences, the 50th anniversary celebration. Now, you wrote the theme song,
Yes.
which we can't play this morning. Because it's not been officially launched yet. I don't know. I don't want to be sent a lawyer's letter to say I infringed some copyrights before. Tell us a little bit about this song without breaking any code of confidence.
The song, first of all, their theme is quite, in a way, it's my first time that I encountered. I saw his star rising. So it's Christmassy. It's a celebration of course, the 50 years of FABC. And then I read they released a 49-page document, if I'm not mistaken, about the history of FABC. And of course, it's very, very colorful with the many, also with the many things that the church in Asia would be facing. No? And so I asked the one who contacted me, I think it's Father Bill, and I asked him to ask questions. I have certain questions as to how should the Church of Asia move forward, no, in this period, no. Of course, it's not simply looking back at the 50 years, but it is looking forward to the mission of the Catholic Church in Asia. And then, yeah, Father Bill was saying, of course, they want something to sound like a prayer, no? But then the challenge is how to make it also appealing to the youth. So what I did was I combined both challenges together, no? So it would sound like a prayer in the beginning, then it would go somewhere else in the middle. No, my favorite term is it would go Bollywood in the middle. In the middle. And so that's how the song would go. And I challenged the arranger, my friend, who is so good with arranging music, to incorporate Asian music, Asian instruments, or rather Asian instrument. And surprisingly, it was sung almost by one person because it's pandemic. I was thinking of one of the best groups in Manila, the Paspala, the Jesuit group, no, but there were problems with the recording because of certain restrictions in the studio. Then I asked my most talented and favorite singer, who is not so well known, and she did everything, no, with one companion to sing the male voices, Jingle Buena, and she did so much to this song. So it will be a big surprise, and I think it's one of the most beautiful songs I've written in my lifetime.
I've had the privilege of seeing it and listening to it,
Yes.
being in the committee, and congratulations on a work well done with this. And for the benefit of our viewers who don't know, FABC is the Federation of Asian Bishops' Conferences. All the different conferences of Bishop in Asia form this federation, and it is going to celebrate its 50th anniversary, which was supposed to be 2 years ago, but because of the pandemic, it got all delayed in October this year. And the theme song is coming from Father Carlo himself, and it'll probably be launched somewhere in August, I think. Hopefully, we keep our fingers crossed, and for the conference in October. And with that, Father Carlo, we have come to the end of our conversation. Thank you very much for taking time. I know you're very busy this morning to be with us, to have this little conversation. First time having a liturgical songwriter on our show, and hopefully, we get to hear that song in. But before we go, all your earlier songs, 70 other songs, where can our viewers go to listen to them? Are you on Spotify, Apple Music, or where are you?
Yes. My songs are in the various digital stores and also in YouTube, because if you put it in Spotify, I don't know, it comes out in YouTube.
All right,
So
okay.
they may be linked together, and so you may find it. But I use the name, my first name only, Carlo Magno. Since I released albums, I just use my first name, Carlo Magno. So it's in Spotify, and my name there is Carlo Magno.
All right. So to our viewers, you want to listen to the 70 over compositions of Father Carlo Magno, minus the one on FABC. It's not up yet.
Yes.
You go to Spotify and you can listen to him. Before we end, Father Carlo, any words of advice, encouragement to church musicians, budding musicians, musical directors in our churches? What would you like to say to them?
Of course, the often quoted Saint Augustine phrase, he who sings well prays twice, no? But he also said that to him he who sings loves. No? So if you really love, no, then that is already the music that will really come out. No? Music is an expression of love from God, and our love to God. No? So music helps us to love more. That's it.
And with that, thank you very much, Father Carlo, for making time to be with us, to share your passion, your mission also, which is music and prayer and catechetics also. Hopefully, this conversation will inspire our young musicians to come forward in our churches
Yeah.
to offer their talents to the Lord,
Yes.
and to work together. And as I said, music must unite us and must not divide us. And maybe perhaps we look forward to seeing you on maybe Philippines Got Talent or something of that. In
No,
some ways.
I'm quite a shy person.
But one thing we know that a lot of Filipinos are naturally musically inclined, isn't it? I mean, they pick up the
Yes.
karaoke mic and they can just
Yes.
let it all go, a kind of a thing. It happens naturally. Thank you very much for
Yeah.
sharing
Thank
this
you
with
very
us.
much also for having me. And I will be spreading the news for people to subscribe to this beautiful channel.
That's right. And so to all our viewers, thank you for joining us once again on this Saturday morning, and hope you have a good Sunday with your family and your friends. And don't forget to tune in, to subscribe, to like, or to follow us on Facebook or YouTube channels. And same time next Saturday at 10:30 a.m. We look forward to meeting you again. But before we end, Father Carlo, we usually say a prayer. Would you privilege us with a prayer this morning before we
Yes.
conclude?
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, we thank you for the gift of music. We thank you for giving us this tool to express what is deep in our hearts. You gave us this tool to be able to live through the various mysteries of our life. And music leads us to your presence. Help us to appreciate it as truly a treasure, a gift coming from you. Help us to use music to unite, especially people having conflicts or people having doubts in your love. Help us always to to keep or make us present before you. We know that you are always with us. You are always walking with us. Let music accompany us in our journey towards our common home. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. Mary,
Amen.
Mother of God,
Pray for us.
us.
Thank you, everyone, and see you next week. Bye, everyone. Bye, Father Carlo.
Bye.